What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video right here on Smack. If you enjoy this video, please consider liking it and don't forget to hit the subscribe button that's just down here. And obviously, if you have an opinion, please share it with us in the comment section below. Enjoy the show.
Hi, I'm Jeremy McCarthy, the Group Director of Spa and Wellness at Mandarin Oriental Hotel Group, and this is my Smack episode.
Hello there, Smack listeners, and welcome to our newest episode, for which I had the pleasure to talk to Jeremy McCarthy, Group Director of Spa and Wellness at Mandarin Oriental. Jeremy shared with us his personal definition of wellness, how COVID actually had a beneficial effect on the spa industry, and what makes Mandarin Oriental's approach to wellness unique. And of course, he made us dream about some future destinations they are working on. So thank you for tuning in and enjoy. Hello, Jeremy. Thank you so much for taking the time and welcome to the show.
Hi, Patrizia. Thank you.
I'm very happy to have you. Let's start with an easy one. So we, warm up as a little icebreaker. You are, wellness is all around you every day, all day. Do you have like a personal definition for you yourself? What does wellness mean to you?
Yes, I think of wellness as a positive orientation towards how we think about our health and vitality. Probably the easiest way to think about it is by defining what wellness isn't. So if I think about healthcare is waiting for something to go wrong and then trying to fix it. Now, a lot of people would say that wellness is more like prevention. But prevention is still focused on the negative side of the spectrum because it's really about avoiding the bad things that we don't want to happen to us. But wellness is more on the positive side. It's about getting more of what we want out of life. So, more energy, more positive emotions, more vitality, more years of our life, more mobility, all of those kinds of things.
To improve ourself and our daily life, definitely. And for us in the normal world and all our listeners, it's always very hard to understand what's like behind those fancy titles that everyone has. So maybe you can share a bit what your actual tasks are, what takes up most of your days, and what your average day or week looks like, so we can understand a little bit what a group director of spa and wellness actually does.
Sure. Well, I think a lot of people think, I traipse around the world just having spa treatments, and it's not quite as glamorous as it sounds. I spend a lot of time in our headquarters in Hong Kong, but I oversee the strategy, the marketing, the operations of our spa business, which we have 36 hotels and resorts around the world. And I oversee the spa aspects, but also the fitness, wellness, and the leisure component like kids clubs, swimming pools, water sports, activities, and things like that. So all the fun stuff, as I like to describe it. And I spend a lot of my time as well on the design and development of new projects. So either existing hotels that are being renovated or new hotels that we are in the process of building. And we have a lot of exciting new developments coming. So I spend my time getting the spa facilities right, figuring out what are the amenities that we want to offer to our guests, what kinds of experiences will we have, and so forth.
And that must also have changed probably, right? So the projects you have in the pipeline now, you have a different focus now than probably a few years ago. I mean, you've been in the game for quite a bit. So I'm sure you've seen over the years some changes that you are now implementing in the new products. So maybe you can tell us a bit about, your kind of so far lifetime in this industry and what have been some developments or some major changes.
Sure. Well, I think Mandarin Oriental has certainly been evolving in the way that we think about these projects. I think at the beginning, our focus really was just on the spa. And, we have a great reputation and a great history of operating some of the best spas in the world. Mandarin Oriental New York was one of the first Forbes 5-star rated spas in the world, and we've had more 5-star spas as a percentage of our portfolio than any other hotel group every year since then. So spa historically has been a big focus. A few years ago, we expanded that focus into wellness and really thinking beyond spa about, our guests are increasingly interested in wellness. It's a more and more important part of everybody's lifestyle. And so, when someone stays at our hotel, we have to think about how do we help them have an experience that supports their well-being while they're staying with us. And I think we all know travel sometimes can be difficult from a wellness standpoint. It disrupts our routines and it interferes with sleep, and sometimes it interferes with diet and with exercise. So, we think a lot about how do we deliver wellness to our guests and make sure that they are able to experience that when they stay with us. And I think now, coming out of COVID, we continue to evolve to think more and more about experiential travel. I think coming out of COVID, there's a lot of pent up demand for people still want to travel, but they don't just want to travel. They want to cross off their bucket list experiences. They want to have they want to visit incredible destinations that they've always wanted to see, but they also want to immerse themselves in those destinations and experience them to the fullest extent. And so we think a lot about the leisure activities and the experiences that connect our guests to the destination and how we guide them to the best experience of a destination.
And this trend that you're mentioning now with after COVID, where everyone is also willing to spend quite a bit and to really tailor their experiences to their desires and dreams, and like you're saying, they're trying to get a real experience when they travel. Is this something that helps you because you are, a product or a brand that is at this end of the spectrum and has always been able to, take that one further step and take it to the next level, kind of, and especially also, like you say, leisure and wellness. Those are all kind of getting more and more important now after COVID. So does this help you, and do you feel that, or are you calculating that in now going into the next project?
I think it does help us. I mean, I think people do recognize Mandarin Oriental as a brand that has paid particular attention to some of these ideas around spa, wellness, experiences that everybody is searching for and finds important in their travel. And so I think we do have that reputation that attracts guests to us. And also from a colleague standpoint, I think Mandarin Oriental is one of the only hotel groups that didn't really scale back in terms of our wellness offerings and the support that we give to our hotels from a spa and wellness standpoint. So I think we have a reputation around that is attractive to the workforce as well, and wanting to join a brand that has consistently had wellness as a core pillar of the brand.
And during COVID, so I don't want to talk about it too much because it's a boring topic now, but how, I mean, thinking about so many aspects of the spa and wellness sphere, it must have been very impacted by, just you couldn't be close to people, you couldn't really be in an environment where you're sharing the same room or sauna with so many different people, and so I can imagine that you had to be really creative in a very quick time how to still bring that whole idea across to guests or to your community. So can you maybe share a bit about what you did in those first few months and yeah, to tackle that?
Yeah, we pivoted during COVID. So, and it actually, I would say it shaped our wellness philosophy and our wellness positioning, because one of the things that we realized during COVID, there was so much uncertainty. People didn't know what they should be doing and how we should react to everything that was going on. And we also had to take care of our colleagues who had a lot of uncertainty in their lives and, weren't sure about their career and their job prospects when the hospitality industry was really struggling. So we developed a bunch of programs around inner strength and outer strength for our colleagues. And after we developed that for our colleagues, and we had started with this 4-week course for all of our colleagues while we were going through COVID to help them build up their strength while we were confronting this global crisis. And after we rolled that out to our colleagues, we realized that everybody needs this right now. And so we really focused on this idea of inner strength, outer strength. Developed a bunch of wellness retreats around the world, thought about, the spa offerings, but also incorporating more aspects of mental wellness, mindfulness, meditation, and the physical fitness component of being, mentally strong and physically strong. Because I think when you're going through a time of uncertainty, one thing that you can always do is make yourself stronger. If you don't know what you need to do, you don't know what steps to take, what you can always do is focus on making yourself stronger so that when it becomes clear what action you need to take, you will be ready to take action because you have kind of prepared yourself. So that really got us through COVID. And I think in those years of the pandemic, we weren't sure what people's perception of the spa industry was going to be. I remember some very notable spa experts saying, people might not want to come back to spas after this. The spa business, might be, it might take years for the spa business to come back. But actually, we were surprised to see how quickly our customers wanted to come back. In many cases, our guests were asking us to reopen our spas before we were ready to, or before the governments in certain countries were allowing us to. So the demand from our guests has actually been surprisingly high. We've been pleasantly surprised to see how much value our guests place on the spa experience and how much they've stayed true to that. Probably the biggest challenge coming out of COVID is the hospitality industry, as I'm sure you've talked about on your podcast before, but the industry has lost a lot of talent and we're having to build that talent back up. And so that has been, it's been more difficult to get our colleagues to come back and the workforce to come back, and not as difficult to get our guests to come back.
And have they gone into like the medical field, or do you have an idea, or do you know where most of the workforce has kind of found a new environment where they're comfortable and that's why they're not coming back?
I think there's a lot of different stories, and we've seen them across the board where people have gone back to their home country to be closer to their family. People have decided to pursue another industry. I think in the case of spa talent, when you have really good therapists and suddenly you go through a period where the spa and the hotel are closed, that therapist is kind of forced to go out and figure out, can they make money on their own as an entrepreneur or as an individual practitioner? And I think a lot of our therapists are very talented. We tend to have very good therapists in our spas. And so they have that ability to go out and work for themselves and be successful. And I think many of them have pursued that path. So yeah, we have to kind of attract new people into the hospitality space and bring them into our spas again.
Yeah, it's definitely something we all face. I mean, I also work for a hotel chain, and it's the biggest problem one of the many problems that we're facing at the moment. Like, how do you, motivate them to come back? What is the one thing or that they care about most, and how do you implement that? And how do you change also maybe the culture that, in hospitality, sometimes appreciation of employees was not always the strongest.
I think one thing we've been very lucky about is we have a very strong alumni community. We call it our forever fans. So these are people who have worked with us in the past. At some point or another, they left Mandarin Oriental. And over these past few years of COVID, we have hired an incredible amount of people who have come back to the group. So people who have, at one point or another, maybe had left and gone to another hotel group, or who had decided to leave the industry, but then ultimately decided that, hey, you know what, actually, I'd rather go back and be back with Mandarin Oriental. And that means a lot to us. And we love the fact that we have that long-term relationship with the people who work with us, that they feel comfortable, that they can stay connected to us and come back into the family when the time is right.
I love the name Forever Friends.
Yeah, it's great, right?
Yeah, that's amazing.
Very fitting.
And very fitting, yes. And you mentioned before a few minutes ago that now you can see that these since COVID, these topics like mindfulness, um, mental health, and all these things are much more present, or at least for me, in my kind of bubble, I see this a lot. Does this help you when it comes to, or do you take this into account when you take a look at your programming, when you take a look at these new projects now? That Do you see this as a trend that will last, or this is just kind of a bounce back from the crisis?
Yeah, I think a lot of the trends that we're seeing right now were already underway
Mhm.
before COVID, and COVID was really a great accelerator of trends. So this trend towards mental wellness and mindfulness was very much underway, and people are really prioritizing mental well-being, and I think that has only accelerated in recent years. So like I described with some of the programs that we've worked on around inner strength, outer strength, that really ties into a lot of our wellness offerings and brings that mental component in. So I think it does influence the way that we think about our offering and the wellness that we deliver to our guests. The other thing I would say is during COVID, people's technology was kind of the hero of the pandemic. So before COVID, Mandarin Oriental was doing a lot of digital detox and digital wellness type initiatives. And we created specific treatments for people to use our spas as a place to go to disconnect from technology. But during these years of COVID, technology was everybody turned to technology. So it helped us stay connected with family. It helped us to get our work done. And even from a wellness standpoint, people have increasingly turned to technology to follow
Mhm.
their exercise programs or do their meditation app and things like that. So technology has been more pervasive than ever. But I think that also adds to that call for our spas to be a place where people can go to take a break from technology and to disconnect for a while and go into a healing environment. And really, spas are one of the last places in the modern world where people go and put their phone away for an hour and just spend some time in silence and enjoy a more soothing and calming, healing environment.
But so then probably now you've developed a kind of an overarching program where you use like technologies, and you have like a digital kind of way for guests to use and to interact with the program, but then combining this with the serenity and the disconnection of the actual treatment, for example. Is that what you're saying, that this is now kind of a new way of mending these two areas?
Yeah, I think you're touching on the great paradox of modern life is especially in the wellness world is, kind of one of the best things that we can do for our guests to help them create more well-being is to help them disconnect from technology. But at the same time, we have to use technology to connect with our guests, to help our guests connect with us, to make it easier for them to find us, to learn about us, to help us learn about our guests. So the digital technology is there, and it's an important part of what we do and how we communicate, and we continue to work on that. But from a spa and wellness standpoint, yeah, we usually think about our offerings as how do we counteract some of the negative impacts of technology on well-being, and what can we offer along those lines. So just as an example, we have created an annual event that we do every year in December called Silent Night. And it's basically just an evening in our spas where we encourage people to come into our spas and spend an evening in silence. Because in the modern world, especially if you're living in an urban environment, you're either always surrounded by the noise of the city, or you're drowning out the noise of the city by having headphones in and streaming content. And so we don't often go somewhere where we just take some time, put technology away and sit in silence and allow our mind to settle. So I think that's an important part of the spa experience is, yes, the therapists are important and the products are important and the facilities are important, but it's also just that ritual of getting outside of the hustle and bustle of daily life and just calming down and allowing your mind to settle down for a while.
I love that your silent night is close to Christmas in December. It's
Exactly.
a very fitting like kind of picture in my mind.
Which is also a very hectic and stressful time of year for people, right?
Definitely.
So it's a good opportunity for people to come during, the frenzied end of year crunch and just say, you know what, let's have a pause and
Mhm.
just settle down a bit.
Yeah, and it can be also a lonely time for some people. And I think if you then go to something like this, an event where you are silent, but at the same time probably feel very connected to other people with you at this moment in this space. So yeah, it's a very nice idea. I'll see if I can find a Mandarin Oriental somewhere around
You
in
should.
December. And maybe that's a bit of a mean question, but is there something that you now see as kind of the next big thing, or that could become the next, I don't know, big trend in terms of treatments, but also maybe from an architectural kind of planning um background? Is there something where everyone's like, oh, this is going to change the way we do this?
Well, I think one thing that we're very focused on right now is the idea of physical movement. And it kind of relates to what I was saying about technology, because a part of our relationship with technology is that we spend more and more time with our minds constantly processing information on technology, but we're also spending more and more time with our bodies being sedentary and our bodies not moving. And so if there's one thing that everybody could do right now to improve their overall health and well-being, it would be to move more.
Mhm.
And I think fitness trends have really been changing in this area dramatically, where the traditional hotel gym is filled with equipment. And that equipment is actually designed to limit movement. Like usually the older approaches to fitness is kind of you go and just repeat the same pattern over and over again. But I think there's a big shift in the way that we think about movement, and it goes far beyond the old approaches to fitness, where it's really about getting a diversity of movement, moving your body in different ways, not just repeating the same patterns over and over again, but doing things that are more organic, like dance or martial arts or animal type movements. And so we've been thinking a lot about this idea of movement. We partnered actually in 2022. We partnered with a physiotherapy company that works with elite athletes in Hong Kong called Joint Dynamics. And we asked them to help us create a massage treatment that would help improve people's posture and mobility. Because we see everybody who comes into our spa or our fitness centers all have the same challenges, because we all spend too much time sitting in chairs, too much time looking down at screens, too much time with our hands resting on a keyboard. And, our bodies become tight in a very predictable way. So people have, tight hamstrings, tight hip flexors, low back problems, head forward posture, internally rotated shoulders. So we wanted to create a treatment that would specifically target those areas and help open up people's posture and mobility. And so we've created this program called Intelligent Movement, and it really bridges the gap between the spa and the fitness center, because the therapist in the spa and the trainer in the fitness center can both work together with our guests to help them unlock some of the wellness that they maybe have lost by virtue of spending too much time being sedentary and looking at
Mhm.
technology.
Well, now I'm definitely hooked because I have been started, like, I started going to a physiotherapist exactly because I'm having too many headaches. And I think it's because of like something in my neck, kind of. And she was like, yeah, it's definitely because, your posture and you're looking at screens and you don't have a standing desk. So now I have a standing desk. And like all these things, where I kind of knew that this is a problem for most of us because there's just so many people with desk jobs. But I always thought, not me, I do sports, I go out, like I'm mobile. But it's crazy how, yeah, how broadly we're all affected and should also be more cautious about this, and with
I
little
mean, it
exercise.
really is affecting everyone, and that's why I see this as a big initiative. And even for I mean, I'm a very active person, and I try to get exercise every day. But even for the active person who, maybe does some kind of movement or exercise for an hour every day, or goes and plays sports on the weekend, if you're spending 8 hours a day on technology, you're not getting the amount of
Hmm.
movement that your body was designed to get. And so the easiest way, you could go to any random person on the street and improve their overall well-being by getting them to move more.
Hmm. Okay, this isn't our mission now. Well, it has been your mission for a very long time, but it's not now my
Yeah,
mission to go
let's
to random
spread the
people on the
word.
street.
Move more.
Yes. And so before you worked at Mandarin Oriental, you also worked for Starwood and Four Seasons. So you really have been in the game for a very long time. Is this, can you share maybe a little bit also how the approaches to wellness kind of differed, or how your view on their approach kind of, yeah, if are there any differences, or is it just also because that was also a couple of years ago and everyone's approach was different?
Yeah, I think, I mean, it's hard to say because I've been out of those companies for quite a while
Hmm.
now. I started my career in Four Seasons, an incredible company. I learned a lot working for Four Seasons, and I have a great fondness for the brand and the group. And Starwood was also an incredible time. And, we launched a bunch of branded spa concepts across all of Starwood's many brands. And now, as you know, they belong to the Marriott collection. So those were great companies and great experiences. I think the thing that drew me to Mandarin Oriental, and what I feel is a little bit different about Mandarin Oriental, is that it really is a core part of our culture. And I think every hotel company nowadays has evolved to the point where there is no luxury hotel company that doesn't at some level recognize the importance of wellness. I think it has gotten to the point where it is, incredibly mainstream across all of the hospitality brands, that wellness is important to our guests. But I think Mandarin Oriental has always had that as a core part of the DNA of the company, and you can feel it behind the scenes. So even though every company has a strong wellness offering and will talk about wellness, within Mandarin Oriental, it's embedded in a way that I don't
Hmm.
think it is in most hotel companies. And
Hmm.
one of the ways that I think about it is wellness is always on the agenda at every senior level executive meeting that we have in our company. And that was not the case in other
Hmm.
companies that I have worked for.
Hmm.
It's kind of a nice to have, it's an amenity for the guests, but it wasn't really core to the philosophy of the company in the way that it is with Mandarin Oriental. So that is what has attracted me to the group and has made me very happy to be a part of that brand and a part of that culture for almost 9 years now.
Yeah, and it's also because of course it's an expensive part of the business, and it's, so I understand how you have to have it, but maybe it's sometimes it's not, it doesn't get the credit or the time and space it deserves, because at the same time everyone's like, yeah, but it's so energy, like it needs a lot of energy, it needs a lot of
Mm.
space. When we develop this, our whole project has to be planned differently. So I can see how sometimes it's also kind of the something really hard to take on.
Well,
And
from a
yeah.
financial perspective, the spa business is a small part of a hotel's P&L. So yeah, it can be difficult for a hotel company to want to focus on that. But I think what we recognize is that the guests who love the spa are a particular type of guest. These are our more affluent customers. The guests who come to the spa they pay more for their room per night. They're more likely to stay in a suite. Their average length of stay is longer. It's more likely to be a double occupancy guest. They spend 3 times as much on F&B as a non-spa guest. So these are the best kinds of guests to have. They come to the hotel, they stay in the hotel, they enjoy these services and facilities that the hotel has to offer, and they're more loyal to our brand because they've had such an impactful and profound wellness experience when they stay with us that creates that kind of incredible loyalty with our guests. So I think, the fact that Mandarin Oriental has recognized that and also has recognized it from before my time. I mean, I would love to say that I was the one who convinced Mandarin Oriental that they should focus on this, but actually Mandarin Oriental was focusing on this way before everybody else realized that wellness was important. And so I think that kind of visionary foresight, really, really drew me to Mandarin Oriental, and it helps us to attract a lot of great spa and wellness talent today.
But your background, like in your early days, was actually in psychology, right? So you did your bachelor's in psychology. You also you got a master's degree in applied positive psychology. You wrote a book about it. So I'm also a bit interested in how you kind of came from that background then into spas and wellness, and how you now can combine these two interests that you have, because I'm sure there must be, I mean, you wrote a book about how, the psychology of spas and well-being. So I'm sure there are many parallels. So maybe you can share a bit about this as well.
Yes, it's very interesting. When I started my career, first of all, I started out in fitness. So I was a personal trainer and I was a swim coach and I was interested in martial arts. So when I first started studying psychology, I was kind of interested in like sports psychology and the psychology of human motivation. But when I was studying psychology, that's not really what you learn in school when you're studying psychology. You learn about mental illness and anxiety and depression and, more of the negative aspects of psychology. So in those early years, I realized, well, maybe I don't want a career in psychology. But meanwhile, working in luxury hospitality and especially in the wellness space, I realized that what we do every day is psychology, because at the end of the day, it's really about how do we make people feel, and what is their emotional experience and their mental experience when they come into one of our hotels or in one of our spas. So I really felt like I was practicing psychology every day working in the hospitality industry. And then in 2008, I discovered a program in applied positive psychology at the University of Pennsylvania. And this idea of positive psychology, which was about all of the things that traditional psychology was neglecting, and really thinking about the psychology of happiness and flourishing and positive relationships and goal accomplishment and vitality. That kind of brought me back into psychology, and this was the psychology that I always wanted to study. So I went back to school, but the whole time I was thinking about how does this apply to spa? And so that the book that I wrote was basically my capstone project in my master's degree program of thinking about how does positive psychology apply to the spa experience. And the reality does it does apply. People come to the spa because they want to feel a certain way, and they want to come out of the spa feeling better than they did when they came in. They want to feel, a burden is lifted off of them, and that they're their mind is clearer and their emotions are more settled, and that they're feeling good in their body and in their mind. So yeah, a lot of people, when I went back to school, they said, "Oh, you're going back to school to study psychology. Are you leaving the spa industry?" And I always thought that was a funny question, because the spa industry always talks about mind, body, and spirit. So if you realize that the spa is about mind, body, and spirit well-being, then psychology is a natural thing to study and to think about how we apply.
They were just scared to lose you. You have to understand them. They were
Oh,
just like,
thank you.
no, don't leave us. Come back. Well, I'm sure, like you said, it benefited, of course, your own like interests in the field, but then also your daily work and how you approach um, the well-being management and everything in your daily life. So I think going back to school is always a good idea.
Absolutely. And yeah, I think having the opportunity and the fact that I was able to do that, and the way the program was set up, allowed me to kind of study and work side by side, which I'm very grateful for. And it really did impact my life, both personally and professionally. So it was a great experience.
And we're slowly getting to the end of the episode. So now I, of course, also want to know, what are the projects in the pipeline that you're most excited for? What is happening? Where can I, soon go to my silent night and everything? Yeah, what are you currently working on?
Well, I think one of the great things is that our development pipeline has not slowed down at all during these past few years. We've had lots of great activity around new projects opening. One of the things I'm most excited about is the number of resorts that we have under development. When I joined Mandarin Oriental, we had 3 resorts, which was about 10% of our portfolio. If I look at the development pipeline, the future of Mandarin Oriental has a lot more resorts. And in the last few years, we've taken over and rebranded a resort in Lake Como in Italy. We just finished the renovation of the spa there. I actually was just visiting there a couple of weeks ago. It's now one of my favorite spas in the world, just absolutely incredible. We took over and rebranded the Emirates Palace in Abu Dhabi. We're in the process of renovating the spa there, which is also going to be amazing. And that property, just from a resort experience standpoint, this is one of the funnest resorts that you could ever go to, with kids' activities. They have a football club, a tennis club, paddle tennis courts on the beach, incredible water sports program, nature programs where you can learn about local wildlife. Really, there's so much to do there. It's a really fun property. And then looking at new things that are coming, we have more exciting resorts that are on the way. We're going to be opening later this year our first resort in Greece, in Costa Navarino. That's going to be another really incredible destination. We are also working on a new resort in Muscat, Oman, and then other projects further down the line in development in the Maldives, in Phuket, in Grand Cayman. So yeah, really lots of exciting new projects. But in particular, I get excited about the resorts.
And is there something that you're like, a location or a kind of spa experience that is not in the pipeline yet, but you're still kind of dreaming about, implementing with Mandarin Oriental, like a personal
Well, I lived
dream?
in Hawaii for a few years, and I absolutely loved Hawaii. I That's where I proposed to my wife. I took her to Maui and proposed to her at the bottom of a giant waterfall. And so Hawaii is
I
one of my
think I think you should talk to my boyfriend and tell him a bit how you approach these things. That
no
sounds
pressure,
very
no pressure.
romantic.
So I absolutely love Hawaii. We do have a project coming in Honolulu, which is very exciting, but it's not quite the beachfront resort location yet that we need to have. And so yeah, I look forward to that, and also Mexico. I worked in Mexico previously. It's a great country from a hospitality standpoint because the people are amazing. The food is incredible. The beaches are some of the best in the world. So yeah, I'd love to see us get a resort soon in Mexico.
Very good. Well, fingers crossed. I always end my episodes with the same question, more or less. And it's kind of if you could go back and talk to your 22-year-old self straight out of, university at the beginning of everything, is there any tip or advice that you would give yourself?
I think absolutely for me, the advice would be to learn as much as you can. I mean, now I look back on my career as the accumulation of all the things that I've learned over many years that has brought me to incredible places. And I didn't realize early on how that learning was going to add up and shape my life and shape my career and the quality of life that I have today. So I think learn as much as you can about as many things as you can, because you never know how all of the learning that you have over the course of your life is going to accumulate and create an incredible life.
Well, that's a great advice, Jeremy. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. It was a lot of fun talking to you, and thanks. And hopefully, see you soon in a spa at Mandarin Oriental somewhere around the world.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for this podcast, which is a great forum for the hospitality industry. And I'm honored to be invited to join you.
That's it for this episode, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to share your thoughts on this episode and everything else that is going on at Smack with us by checking out our website at smack.media or connect with us on LinkedIn, YouTube, or Instagram. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. If you want more from Smack, you can find it right here. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel, which is entirely free, by the way, so I have no idea why you haven't done that yet. Our social media channels are in the section below if you want to stay in touch. We'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. If you want more from Smack, you can find it right here. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel, which is entirely free, by the way, so I have no idea why you haven't done that yet. Our social media channels are in the section below if you want to stay in touch. We'll see you next time. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video right here on Smack. If you enjoy this video, please consider liking it, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button that's just down here. And obviously, if you have an opinion, please share it with us in the comment section below. Enjoy the show. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. If you want more from Smack, you can find it right here. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel, which is entirely free, by the way, so I have no idea why you haven't done that yet. Our social media channels are in the section below if you want to stay in touch. We'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. If you want more from Smack, you can find it right here. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel, which is entirely free, by the way, so I have no idea why you haven't done that yet. Our social media channels are in the section below if you want to stay in touch. We'll see you next time. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video right here on Smack. If you enjoy this video, please consider liking it, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button that's just down here. And obviously, if you have an opinion, please share it with us in the comment section below. Enjoy the show.